Iran continues to downplay the impact of Israel's airstrikes, easing fears of a rapid escalation in conflict. Also tonight, hostage families protest in Tel Aviv amid fears the airstrikes may hinder chances of their loved ones' release. Japan's new Prime Minister under pressure as voters go to the polls in a snap election. And David Crisafulli to become the 41st Premier of Queensland after the LNP claims victory in the state election.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight Queenslanders have voted for hope over fear.
I'm Catalina Florez. This is SBS World News. Good evening. Iran has confirmed 4 members of its military were killed in yesterday's Israeli strikes. 24 hours on, and there's still little known about the true extent of the damage. Tehran has continued to downplay the attacks, saying it has the right to respond, but not explicitly vowing to retaliate.
A night of strikes so far, leaving behind little evidence. Only these few images south of the capital showing a building damaged but still standing. Iran's efforts to downplay the attacks showing early signs of success on the streets of Tehran.
خیلی در ابعاد وسیع‌تر حمله را انجام دادن. اینکه اینقدر کوچیک انجام دادن حس می‌کنم به معنی ترسشونه.
اگر این زدن این تیر و ترقه‌ای بود که دیشب شما درک کردید که اصلا هیچ کس خواب بیدار نشد تو تهران.
10 days out from the US election, it's a narrative Washington can live with.
I was on with the intelligence community for the last half hour, 3.5 hours. It looks like they didn't hit anything other than military targets. My hope is this is the end.
As Israel released images of its fighter jets taking off for Tehran, the Prime Minister's office scoffing at the suggestion it dropped plans to strike gas and oil facilities due to pressure from the US, labelling the reports in Israeli media completely false and saying Israel chose in advance the attack targets according to its national interests and not according to American dictates. Saudi Arabia and the UAE condemning the attacks and calling for restraint. The US says yesterday's strikes should mark the end of this direct exchange of fire, but Iran says it reserves the right to retaliate. State TV reading a carefully worded statement from the military, suggesting ending the wars in Gaza and Lebanon would take priority over any retaliation.
The statement, while emphasising Iran's legitimate right to respond in due time, stressed the necessity of establishing a sustainable ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon to prevent the massacre of defenceless and oppressed people.
Other than saying it targeted Iranian military and missile manufacturing sites, Israel is also remaining tight-lipped about the strikes. It's not boasting about its success, and the Prime Minister has reportedly directed his staff not to disclose any details.
Iran attacked in the last time the military bases, Air Force bases, so Israel also attacked military bases, Air Force. So we see that Israel wants to close this event to pass this message. We don't want to escalate it, so now it depends on Iran if they take this message, understand this message or not.
For now, it appears a major escalation has been avoided. But as this region knows all too well, that can change with little warning. Claudia Farhat, SBS World News.
Israeli families of hostages in Gaza have expressed concern that the airstrikes on Iran will now make the situation worse for their loved ones. Protesters have taken to the streets of Tel Aviv, calling for a deal to obtain the release of the hostages abducted on October the 7th last year. The calls come ahead of renewed negotiations in Qatar.
The crowd filled with family, friends and supporters of some of those captured on October 7. They're calling for a deal that would see the freeing of 101 hostages being held in Gaza. It's not known how many are still alive. Many fear Israel's attack on Iran will only complicate matters further.
we fear a regional escalation which will distance us further from a life-saving hostage release deal and sentence our loved ones to death in captivity.
While the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was hoped to have been a turning point in the conflict.
Israel already got its victory photo. Hamas leadership has been eliminated. Hamas brigade have been dismantled. Terror infrastructure has been torn down. Hamas has been defeated militarily.
On the report. Network stretching 1.5 kilometres, as well as underground compound operated by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. In the early hours of Sunday, explosions were reported in the south of Beirut, while in the north of Israel, Hezbollah has warned residents in at least 24 towns to immediately evacuate, saying they had become legitimate targets. Israel says it intercepted a barrage of 190 projectiles fired by Hezbollah overnight. A group of Israeli nationals have appeared in a court in Haifa charged on suspicion of spying on behalf of Iranian intelligence. The 7 Israelis, including 2 minors, are accused of gathering intelligence on military bases, energy and port infrastructure. Police say the security breach was among the most serious ever seen by Israel. Tropical storm Trami is making landfall in Vietnam after devastating parts of the Philippines, where the death toll has now exceeded 100. The country has been grappling with the aftermath of extensive flooding and landslides, with more than 2 months' worth of rainfall falling in some areas. Rescue workers in Batangas province are continuing their search for the missing, backed by police, firefighters and search dogs.
In the lakeside town of Talisay, rescuers search for the last 2 missing villagers. Digging through an area devastated by landslides, they uncover what's thought to be the remains of a 14-year-old girl. A father watches on. He'd been waiting for word on his missing daughter. Emergency responders place the remains into a black body bag. He follows them through the village. Visibly distraught, he watches on as the body bag is placed onto a police van for identification. But he is certain that this is his missing teenage daughter. He is among several residents forced to farewell their loved ones. At a nearby basketball gym in the town centre, a man and his son attend a wake for his wife and youngest child.
She heard our youngest child crying. My wife tried to reach her, but she was in the corner. So my wife entered through the roof ceiling near our child, without knowing my daughter's foot was pinned down. When my wife grabbed the hands of our child, there was a second landslide with huge boulders and trees which buried them.
It's a scene being played out across parts of the country's northeast as reports come in from previously isolated areas. Tropical storm Trami has been described as one of the Philippines' deadliest and most destructive storms this year, forcing hundreds of thousands of people to flee their homes. A state of calamity has been declared across 158 cities and municipalities. The country's president saying his administration will start work on a major flood control project to address what he calls unprecedented threats posed by climate change. Hannah Kwon, SBS World News.
And these pictures just in from Vietnam show heavy rain and strong winds as the tropical storm hit the coast. In Da Nang City, uprooted trees blocked traffic. Authorities have suspended operations at 4 airports, called for boats to take shelter and are warning people not to leave their homes. Voters in Japan have gone to the polls today in a snap election that could challenge the dominance of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's party is set to lose seats in the lower house amid public anger over a corruption scandal and economic uncertainty.
Residents of Tokyo cast their votes, wanting to see relief from the high cost of living.
国が結局良くなること、財源がより適切に回ること、そういったところを考えているのが国民民主党なんじゃないかと思ったので、そこに入れたってところですね。
Even with a corruption scandal embroiling the government and rising concerns over relations with China, it's the economy that's front of mind for many.
Many Japanese people started to feel kind of worsening standard of living in the last few years. Therefore, really important issues there was the economic issue. LDP may actually fail in gaining, like a kind of a parliament sort of, majority.
This election is a test for Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who called the election immediately after taking over the leadership of his party only weeks ago. The ruling Liberal Democratic Party has seen declining approval ratings following a slush fund scandal that led to the resignation of his predecessor, Fumio Kishida. Desperate to win back support, Ishiba made his final pitch to voters on the economy.
物価上昇に負けない賃金上昇を作る、そして下請けの方々に負担を負わせない、そういう経済を作ってまいります。
The LDP is almost certain to lose seats in the parliament, with Japan's biggest opposition party, the Constitutional Democratic Party, expected to make significant gains. But the LDP is hoping to maintain a majority in the 465-member lower house, in coalition with its junior partner, Komeito. Anything less could see Ishiba face a leadership challenge within his party.
Regardless of whether, the LDP and Komeito keep the majority or don't, they're still going to lose seats, and that's still a good reason for people who don't like Ishiba in the party to point a finger at him and say, we don't think he should be leading the party going forward.
Polls close at 8 p.m. local time tonight, with early results expected within hours. Aaron Fernandez, SBS World News.
Coming up, Michelle Obama centre stage as the US presidential race goes to the swing state of Michigan. A mass protest of the far right, why there are demands that police release an activist.
Please keep a safe distance from us.
And confrontation in the South China Sea. Indonesian ships challenge a Chinese Coast Guard vessel. Former First Lady Michelle Obama has joined Kamala Harris on the campaign trail in Michigan. Donald Trump is also in the key swing state where the polls are on a knife edge.
Michelle Obama taking to the stage in Michigan before an ecstatic crowd, then expressing what's in the heart of many a Democrat nationwide.
This race is close. It's too close for my liking.
Delivering impassioned remarks on women's health care.
We are more than just baby-making vessels.
And a plea to America's men.
Please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump.
With only 10 days remaining, urging voters to get off the sidelines.
Can someone tell me why we are once again holding Kamala to a higher standard than her opponent? We expect her to be intelligent and articulate, but for Trump, we expect nothing at all.
Kamala Harris warmly embraced by the former First Lady, but this was Michelle Obama's first and so far only scheduled rally with the Democrats' candidate. Harris relating her record as a prosecutor.
I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took them on and I won. Well, Michigan, in 10 days, it's Donald Trump's turn.
Donald Trump also making a bid for Michigan.
You're going to say, Kamala, you're no good. You did a lousy job. You destroyed San Francisco. You're not going to destroy our nation. Kamala Harris, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here. You're fired.
Trump inviting several Arab and Muslim leaders on stage.
Give them a big hand because they're going to vote for us and help us win.
A significant demographic in the swing state where polling shows a virtual dead heat. Almost forgotten amid the noise, the sitting president.
Donald Trump is a loser. A loser. He's a loser as a candidate. And more importantly, in my view, and I'm just going to say it straight up, he's a loser as a man.
But who will succeed Joe Biden is completely open. Prulawan, SBS World News.
Georgia's pivotal parliamentary election has been marred by violence and allegations of fraud. The country's election commission has the ruling Georgian Dream Party on 54%, which would give it an outright majority in parliament. But opposition parties say they don't accept the result, labelling it a constitutional coup.
A vote for the future direction of Georgia, the outcome poised to steer the nation closer to the West or to Russia. As polls closed, both the increasingly authoritarian ruling party, founded by former Prime Minister and billionaire Bidzina Ivanishvili, and the bloc of pro-EU opposition parties were celebrating.
Georgia is going to Europe, and Russian-backed regime of Georgian Dream is finally ended.
Exit polls offering two vastly different results. This showing a combined opposition majority of 52%. While another had the ruling Georgian Dream at 56%.
This was an amazing victory and a very important victory, thanks to our people first of all, because our people are exceptional and very wise.
An incumbent win, the results supported by the Central Election Commission, which said voter turnout was just under 60%.
რაც გახლავთ 42.99%.
But videos circulating on social media reveal violence and appear to support allegations of ballot stuffing. Investigations are taking place with the Central Election Commission saying it won't allow such manipulation, but opposition figures have pointed the finger at the Commission itself, saying they're certain of election fraud.
We saw the Central Election Commission publish results that are the complete opposite, giving the Georgian Dream an unthinkable advantage.
Voters who'd hoped for change after 12 years expressing their disappointment. Georgia became a candidate for EU membership last December, but earlier this month the European Parliament said its integration was effectively put on hold, citing a continuing decline of Georgia's democracy. The implications of this election now hanging in the balance. Tanya Dandrinos, SBS World News.
Thousands of far-right protesters have marched through central London in a demonstration organised by a detained activist. It's the largest far-right rally since riots in August saw violence against refugees and foreigners in the worst unrest the UK has seen in more than a decade. There was also a counter-protest, police keeping the two groups apart.
The British far-right are on the march again. This was their biggest show of strength since the summer, when anti-immigration riots flared up in towns and cities across the UK. The focus of this rally was the man accused of fanning the flames of those riots. A man conspicuous here by his absence.
Enjoy tomorrow.
The far-right activist known as Tommy Robinson gave himself up to police on Friday and has been detained on a contempt of court order. He's also facing a separate charge under the Terrorism Act.
I love him. He's a great guy. Tommy's good. He's a good boy.
He's a hero. He is speaking for every British person, even the British people that indoctrinated and don't realise what's going on. God bless Tommy Robinson.
This is exactly what Tommy Robinson wanted, a big show of support from his base. The far right signalling that neither Robinson's detention nor the stiff sentences handed out to the summer rioters have cowed them. For the police, the concern was that this demonstration coincided with a countermarch. Unions and human rights organisations organised their protest, called Anti-Racism Day, to oppose the far right.
Refugees are welcome here.
But for the most part, Saturday passed calmly, and Tommy Robinson is due to appear in court on Monday.
Rory Challens reporting from London. At least 5 people have died and 21 injured in Russian attacks in the Ukrainian city of Dnipro. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russian recruitment of more soldiers from North Korea shows a desire to continue aggression in Ukraine. He called for his victory plan to be accepted by world leaders. And a warning, this story contains some distressing images from the start.
Rescued from beneath the rubble. One of the lucky ones. 5 people, one of them a child, died in this attack and more than 20 suffered serious injuries as Russian missiles struck a Dnipro residential area, damaging over a dozen apartment buildings, private houses and a hospital used to treat injured soldiers. Volodymyr Zelensky is fresh from a tour of Europe where he touted his new victory plan. The Ukrainian president said Russia will continue to take civilian lives until his plan is activated.
Світ може зупинити розгортання війни. Абстракцій та слів для цього замало. Конкретні кроки потрібні. Ми дали всі такі кроки в плані перемоги. Те, що не дозволить винуватцям війни стати ще більш агресивними.
According to South Korean intelligence, a second group of North Korean soldiers will soon deploy to Russia. The first group, according to Kyiv, stationed in Kursk, where up to half of the territory Ukraine claimed during its cross-border offensive in August has been retaken by Russian forces. Russia said it launched extensive attacks on Ukrainian forces this week in 139 battlefields, including on the border of the Kursk region, where they are now clearing mines left by Ukraine.
Освобожденные территории для мирного населения. То есть мы идем следом за штурмовыми подразделениями, обезвреживаем те подарки, те сюрпризы, которые нам оставил враг.
Ukraine countering some of these attacks, they said, downing 36 of 63 drones launched recently by Russia. In Lviv, volunteers are focusing on rebuilding. The World Heritage listed Lyceum building was destroyed by a Russian missile. It, though, will be returned to its former glory, the volunteers say, symbolising the future of Ukraine. Michal Oskanal, SBS World News.
Australia's Ukrainian community gathered in Sydney today, celebrating the government's offer of permanent residency for war refugees made earlier this month. Around 4,000 displaced refugees were on temporary visas, some dating back to 2022.
We were just so excited. Like, I could not even describe it with my words.
From that moment, we can start just a real life, you know?
As part of the festivities, newly permanent residents were given a taste of Vegemite, the divisive Aussie spread generating mixed reviews. Some willing to grin and bear it, others far from impressed. Queensland has elected a new government, ending nearly a decade of Labor power. With the count still in progress, final figures have yet to be declared, but Liberal National leader David Crisafulli has claimed a narrow victory based on projections of a small majority. The 41st Queensland Premier will succeed now former Premier Stephen Miles. Our Queensland correspondent Renako G has more from Brisbane.
Premier-elect David Crisafulli promises to deliver on campaign commitments as soon as he is sworn in. Today saying he's ready to tackle his new role after forming a majority government.
The significance of what we have achieved is not lost on us. We asked Queenslanders for their support. They gave it in record numbers, and we are determined to give them the fresh start, which we promised we would deliver.
Late last night, he was greeted by cheering supporters as he made his victory speech.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight Queenslanders have voted for hope over fear.
It was a tight race and there was no concession from Labor on the night. Former Premier Stephen Miles extending his congratulations this morning.
Well, first thing this morning, I called David Crisafulli and congratulated him on being elected Queensland's Premier. Being Premier of this state has been the greatest honour of my life, and it is an honour that he has now earned.
The grandson of Italian immigrants, Mr. Crisafulli, attributes his success to his upbringing on his family's sugarcane farm in northern Queensland. He also acknowledged Mr. Miles' humble beginnings.
I want to start by thanking Premier Stephen Miles for his service as the Deputy Premier of this state and indeed as the Premier. And to think that a son of a factory worker could be the 40th Premier of this state tells you everything you need to know about how great Queensland is.
We can expect Mr. Crisafulli to focus on health, crime, housing and cost of living relief in the days to come.
Breanna G reporting from Brisbane. Well, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has played down the election loss for Queensland Labor, saying it was a much better result than anticipated. The LNP victory also highlights internal divisions with the federal coalition over nuclear power proposals.
Celebrating the Italian festa in the heart of Sydney's Little Italy.
Ice cream's on elbow.
As voters in the Sunshine State delivered a loss to Queensland Labor. The Prime Minister looking on the bright side.
The outcome was much better for Queensland Labor than what was anticipated just weeks ago, let alone months ago.
A victory the federal coalition have spent almost a decade waiting for.
It was a swing on from the start. It was just the magnitude that changed during the night. So, historic win.
But the win now highlights divisions within the Liberal National Party. Throughout the campaign, David Crisafulli maintained the LNP was opposed to nuclear power, at odds with the federal opposition's proposal to build 2 nuclear plants in the state.
If we get that mandate from the Australian people, you've got to appreciate that we have to set an energy grid for the East Coast and South Australia and Tasmania, and we need all the states.
Late in the campaign, debate on abortion in the state became prominent. It appears to have impacted the LNP's vote.
The tactics that were used by Labor in this campaign, I just found them somewhere between distasteful and disgraceful.
The matter going national too, after federal coalition Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price also called for it to be debated nationally, a conversation the Nationals leader wants shut down.
Peter Dutton and I won't be taking any policy whatsoever around this matter at all to the next election.
While this defeat was widely expected, the real question was around the scale. Federal Labor is taking some comfort from this result, with the Greens underperforming in some Brisbane electorates. Anthony Albanese warning that could also happen nationally.
Gaining a seat off the Greens political party, I think, sends a message as well that people who elected Greens Party representatives to state and federal parliament expected them to play a progressive role, not to play a blocking role.
The clear story here is that Labor's picked up our policies. They've seen some success and sandbagged some seats on that basis.
Political messages set to get louder with a federal election due by May. Pablo Vinales, SBS World News.
And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has defended accepting dozens of free Qantas flight upgrades. Mr Albanese faced questions after reports he had at least 22 flights upgraded from economy. A new book claims he sought the upgrades directly from former Qantas CEO Alan Joyce. The Prime Minister maintains he openly declared all travel perks at the time.
From time to time, members of Parliament receive upgrades. What's important is that they are declared. All of mine have been declared. I note that a range of them go back a long period of time, but they have all been declared as appropriate.
The upgrades included several personal trips with family and work-related travel when he was Transport Minister and Opposition Leader. A Vatican summit has wrapped up with a call for women to have more leadership roles within the Catholic Church, but the Synod of Bishops stopped short of calling for women to be ordained clergy. 151 proposals were voted on, with a paragraph in the final document on the possibility of women deacons garnering the most no votes, but it still received the 2/3 required to pass. The text was approved for publication after 3 years of listening sessions, continental assemblies and 2 major summits in Rome. Indonesian patrol ships have driven a Chinese Coast Guard vessel away from a survey ship in a disputed area of the South China Sea for the 3rd time in a week. The ship first entered Indonesia-claimed areas of the North Natuna Sea on Monday, then again on Wednesday, before re-entering a 3rd time on Friday. China's Coast Guard claims it was patrolling within its own jurisdiction, but Jakarta says the area is recognised as its territory under international law. Coming up, how one community is using the Diwali festival to promote a sense of belonging. And how the A-League's newest club had its fans in raptures for a second straight week. Former Qantas pilot Gary Criddle has been revealed as one of 3 people killed in a plane crash over Sydney southwest yesterday. He'd been flying in a Cessna 182 aircraft from Cessnock in the New South Wales Hunter region to Wollongong, south of Sydney. A Jabiru light aircraft had just taken off when witnesses say a crash happened mid-air. Gary Criddle has been remembered as a mentor to aspiring pilots. The chief pilot says the airline is upset to learn of his death. In the coming hours, the phase-out of Australia's 3G network will be completed. It's to boost capacity, speed and reliability of the 4G and 5G network. Optus and Telstra will turn off their services after delaying earlier deadlines. A public campaign has been urging people to check whether their older mobile phones and tech devices will work after the network is cut. Later this week, Australia's Indian community will celebrate the Festival of Lights. The 5-day Hindu festival, widely known as Diwali, is also observed by other faiths who know it by different names. One community in Perth is using the festival to help foster a sense of belonging, especially for newly arrived migrants.
In a sea of people, 23-year-old international student Breanna finds himself in uncharted territory, having moved to Australia just 3 months ago.
Have you got the ticket? Okay, thank you.
Breanna decided that getting involved in a familiar community was the best way to ease himself into life in Australia.
I'm come myself here and nobody's here, but the people are here, so helping, so I haven't feel just like I'm alone there. Here I'm celebrating with my family. That's my father, mother.
This year, Breanna is celebrating his first Diwali away from home in the Perth suburb of Breanna.
When on the Diwali festival, I will make the video call and they will show their on their side. I will show the Australia how I'm celebrating there.
According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the suburb of Breanna is experiencing significant growth. Its population more than doubling in 5 years to over 8,500 people in 2021. Also, for residents living there who are born outside of Australia, the most common country of origin is India. Hinduism is the second most practiced religion, and Punjabi is the most commonly spoken language other than English.
I really want the kids to grow and say what our culture is about. So when the kids are here, born and brought up, they never know what Diwali is about. So when they come around, they see a lot of colors, they see a lot of lights.
We thought like when we moved here first in Breanna, at that time it was really new suburb and there wasn't many things happening. So yeah, that's because of that we started planning this kind of event.
Creating new memories for many through food, song and dance.
Diwali is quite popular. It's one of the popular events back in India. It's more like a Christmas over there in India.
Preserving culture and traditions and ensuring no one is left behind. Christopher Tan, SBS World News.
Time for Sunday Night Sport now with Breanna, Holden. Bree, the world's best female cricketers are back down under.
Yeah, back in Australia and already in action. Catalina, the 10th season of the Women's Big Bash League is underway with the Heat defeating the Strikers in this afternoon's season opener. In a rematch of last year's final, Brisbane sent Adelaide into bat at Adelaide Oval. Talia McGrath made an unbeaten half-century as the defending champions posted 5 for 133 from their 20 overs. Charlie Knott anchored the Heat's run chase, hitting 44 off 30 balls. Last season's runners-up reaching the target with 2 overs to spare. New Zealand has ensured India's men's cricket team will head to Australia next month on the back of their first Test series defeat on home soil in 12 years. The Black Caps clinched its first ever Test series victory in India with a 113-run triumph. Chasing 359 for victory, the hosts collapsed to be all out for 255 on day 3. It brings to an end India's run of 18 consecutive home Test series wins.
Yeah, I'm sort of lost for words a little bit. Yeah, it's obviously an immensely proud moment for this group.
I'm just hurting because we lost the game. That is what I will say. I can't think about what lies ahead and can it affect our chances and all of that stuff.
The third and final test begins on Friday in Mumbai. Australia's men's and women's rugby league teams have both advanced to the final of the Pacific Championships next month. The Kangaroos produced a spirited defensive display to defeat New Zealand by 12 points in Christchurch. Zach Lomax scored a double to put Australia in control before Mitchell Moses sealed victory in the dying stages. The Gillaroos also avenged their defeat to the Kiwi Ferns in last year's decider, scoring 3 tries without reply to win 14-0. Back home, and Brisbane has consolidated its spot in the AFLW's top 4 with a comfortable victory over Sydney. The Lions face St Kilda in the final round with a win, locking in a double chance in the finals. Auckland's dream start in the A-League men's competition has continued, with the newcomers securing a dramatic victory over Sydney FC. In other results, the Wanderers shared the points with Western United. Victory dominated last night's Melbourne derby, while Perth Glory slumped to a second consecutive defeat, beaten by Wellington.
A second straight home match for the competition newcomers, with Wellington Phoenix fans reminding them of what's to come next week. Auckland look to enter their first New Zealand derby with a win over Sydney FC. It appeared it wouldn't be the Black Knights' day.
Still there, and the back of the net it goes. And Hayden Matthews is the man they run to.
The goal overturned on review after Patrick Klimala was deemed to have been in an offside position and having an impact on play. It went from bad to worse for the Sky Blues.
Is that handball? That's over the line. It's a backheel goal from Nando Ponica. Nando Ponica has scored the goal that is going to give Auckland FC victory.
Auckland becoming just the second side to win their first 2 matches after joining the A-Leagues.
Incredible, huh? Because we are we joined the A-League this year, but now we are top table now. So this is it's a miracle.
The Wanderers won the Premier's Plate in their first season in the competition.
That's good strength from Borrello, and that's a great finish.
Brendan Borrello gave Western Sydney the lead against Western United, but parity was restored early in the second half.
Getting down to the byline, the cross to the back post is a good one as well. Danzaki was there, so is Ibasuki. And the new man wearing the number 9 shirt opens his account.
A second straight draw for United and a first point of the campaign for the Wanderers. Adrian Archuli, SBS World News.
Barcelona has ended Real Madrid's 42-match unbeaten streak in La Liga, thrashing Los Blancos in a one-sided El Clasico. The 4-0 triumph moves Barca 6 points clear on the top of the table.
We made a fantastic match, and I'm proud about the team. So everyone really gives 100%.
In England, 4-time defending champions Manchester Southampton bunkered down.
Foden's corner, Holland! It's off the line.
And pushed for an equaliser.
Armstrong goes for it himself.
This is the level of the Premier League. If they are in the bottom of these 2 teams in the bottom, that means how tough is this competition.
A shoulder injury to baseball superstar Shohei Ohtani has overshadowed the Los Angeles Dodgers' 4-2 win over the New York Yankees in Game 2 of the World Series. The Japanese hitter was helped from the field after sustaining the injury on a stolen base attempt in the 7th inning. By that point, though, the Dodgers were well in control thanks to home runs from Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez and Freddie Freeman. Game 3 is in New York on Tuesday. Alex de Minaur has suffered a huge blow in his bid to reach the season-ending ATP Tour Finals. Australia's top-ranked men's tennis player was upset in the semi-finals of the Vienna Open. De Minaur went down in straight sets to Karen Khachanov. Only the top 8 ranked players qualify for the finals, with De Minaur currently sitting in 9th position. Supercars driver Brodie Kostecki has backed up his Bathurst 1000 victory by dominating the Gold Coast 500. Will Brown finished second and holds a 180-point lead over teammate Brock Feeney in the Drivers' Championship. The final round is in Adelaide next month. And Ferrari's Carlos Sainz will start tomorrow morning's Formula One Grand Prix in Mexico from pole position. Max Verstappen joins him on the front row, with title rival Lando Norris qualifying 3rd fastest. And that's the day in sport. Catalina, and a lot to enjoy today, but my eye is on the Liverpool-Arsenal match tomorrow morning in the Premier League.
A very important match for you, I know, Brie. Thank you so much. Well, coming up, the weather and the music of Afghanistan, how one performer is raising the plight of a nation. To the weather forecast, there's mid to high level cloud from the Kimberley region of Western Australia through the Northern Territory, northern South Australia, the south of Queensland and the north of New South Wales. Cloud associated with a front is approaching Tasmania. In the major centres, showers for Brisbane, becoming cloudy in Sydney, partly cloudy for Canberra, Melbourne and Hobart. The clouds will clear in Adelaide, a warm and sunny day ahead for Perth and a shower or two for Darwin. Looking further afield, thunder in Nandi, a few showers for Tahiti, partly cloudy in Noumea and a few showers in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch. In Southeast Asia, thunder for Bangkok, a few showers for Phnom Penh, thunder in Kuala Lumpur, partly cloudy in Jakarta and Denpasar. Further north, cloudy for Beijing and Seoul, rain in Tokyo, drizzle in Taipei, showers in Hanoi and cloudy for Manila. Heading west, sunny in Beirut, Jerusalem and Tehran, partly cloudy in Islamabad, fine in New Delhi and Mumbai. To Europe, rainy in Stockholm and Moscow, partly cloudy for Kiev, fine in Paris and Budapest, fog for Rome and fine in Athens. In Africa, cloudy in Algiers, fine for Cairo, partly cloudy in Dhaka, thunder in Lagos, partly cloudy for Addis Ababa and Nairobi. In South America, thunder in Caracas, a few showers for Panama City, cloudy in Bogota, rain in La Paz and Rio de Janeiro, cloudy in Asunción, fine for Santiago and Buenos Aires. And for North America, showers for Vancouver, rain in San Francisco, fine in New York and Washington, showers in Miami and Havana. He's been hailed as a master of the rabab, the national instrument of Afghanistan. Critically acclaimed Afghan-American musician Qais Essar, renowned for his spellbinding performances, is back in Australia. With musicians in Afghanistan facing persecution under the Taliban, Essar hopes his music can ensure their situation isn't forgotten.
The rabab, a cornerstone of Afghanistan's music for centuries, reverberating in Australia. Behind it, Qais Essar. His diverse audience indulging in a unique blend of Indian and Afghan folk, mixed with modern music.
It's really cool to see that it's an instrument that speaks to a wider demographic than just Afghans, which shows that this music, it's not just ours, it can belong and be appreciated by everyone.
Playing alongside him, Murtaza Damoon on the tabla.
I've performed with him before. He's like a brother, so it's always nice to connect with him on stage. To just perform here, it's always been a dream, especially coming here, being young, you know, always seeing the Opera House, so it's definitely something to be proud of.
Despite living in the United States almost 12,000 kilometers away from Afghanistan, Essar's heart has always been with his heritage, as seen through his music videos.
I think that's a good way to continue the conversation, right? And to continue to put the plight of these people in the forefront so that it's a place that's not forgotten.
This plight evident now more than ever under the Taliban regime, amplifying Essar's sense of responsibility as his fellow musicians are left silenced. Isar's performance is part of a series here at the Sydney Opera House called Utson Music, which showcases some of the world's most renowned musicians from Western and Eastern classical traditions.
Everyone's telling me it's like a milestone thing, so it's nice to be here.
Isar's stop in Australia is part of a long tour through which he's invited thousands to explore the rhubarb's limitless possibilities. Mahnoz Anguri, SBS World News.
Recapping our top stories now. Tehran is continuing to downplay yesterday's Israeli airstrikes, giving hope that the conflict won't escalate. 24 hours on, there's still little known about the extent of the damage in Iran, though it's been confirmed that 4 members of its military were killed. A decade of political dominance for the Liberal Democratic Party could be coming to an end in Japan. Opinion polls suggest the LDP coalition may lose its parliamentary majority as a result of the snap election. As the US election nears, former First Lady Michelle Obama has joined Democratic candidate Kamala Harris on the campaign trail. Obama, Harris and Republican candidate Donald Trump have all been speaking in the swing state of Michigan. And incoming Queensland Premier is expected to be sworn in as the state's 41st Premier by the Governor tomorrow. David Crisafulli has vowed to legislate the LNP's adult time for adult crime policy by Christmas. That is the world this Sunday. If you missed some of tonight's bulletin, you can catch up via SBS On Demand. You can also keep up to date by downloading the SBS News app and by visiting SBS News Online. I will be back with news updates throughout the evening, but for now, thank you for your company. I'm Catalina Florez from the team. Have a very good night.